We first interviewed one of the British Army's elite super soldiers, John Urwin, in late 2010. Now, in Bases 13, we revisit John in his home in Newcastle, where he reveals for the first time that the British officer who recruited him into the 16 may not have been human. The 16 were also after ancient, possibly alien crystal energy weapons technology, some of which they recovered in Jaraba, described in part 2. With his dear wife ill in hospital, we give you John Urwin and one step beyond the 16.
My name is John Urwin. I'm now, I will be 74 in a few months' time. And this all started 53 years ago when I was called up for my national service.
So your function, the group's function, is to fight the Illuminati.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that's no mean feat, 1957.
Yeah, and this all took place in the Middle East.
So this was a secret group organised in the British Army to fight the Illuminati.
That's right. And when I went down to North Wales, that's in Wrexham, North Wales, for my basic training, because I didn't drink or go out with the lads to the local naffy, I used to go down to the gym every night. And during one of these nights when I was at the gym, I was approached then by a sergeant who was asking me, was I quite happy where the position I was in, just doing my national service? Would I like to do something more exciting? Well, don't forget, I was only 18. I used to work on a farm prior to that, and also working as a mechanic. So I was rather surprised when he was asking us this, because, like I say, I wasn't of any importance, and I didn't have an education. I hardly ever went to school. I think during the whole time I was at school, I did about 7 years. So anyway, when I was approached by the sergeant, shortly after that, I had forgot all about it. And then just after the basic training, there was a emergency taking place where we had to be flown out to the Middle East, and I was supposed to go to Beirut. But on the way to the Middle East, something went wrong with one of the aircraft, one of the engines that we were in the aircraft that we were in, and we had to land at Malta. And when we landed at Malta, then we were told, 3 of us were told that the plans had been changed and they were now sending us to Cyprus.
Now, just before you go any further there, did the aircraft actually have an engine fault?
Yes, it was partly on fire. So, you know, it did. No, it actually took fire. We could see it out the windows. It was on fire. And it was, like I said, it was these Dakotas. We landed in Malta, and then we were told at Malta that there was 2 of the chaps who was with me at the time, and one of them was called Bill Strickland. Anyway, we were told we had to go to put on a different flight and take it to Cyprus. Of course, like I said, I didn't even know where Cyprus was, to be honest with you. So anyway, we landed in Cyprus, and when we landed there, we found we didn't have a campsite, and we just pitched our tents. We had to make our own latrines, we had to put our own barbed wire fence up and everything. And like I said, it's very hot there, so we only had the Saturday and Sunday was one time, and we went down to a bay called Episcopi. It's a military area, and I was just lying on the beach when the 2 friends that was with me, they went for a swim, and we had one rifle between us. We had to carry a rifle if we're in groups of 3s or 4s, and I had to guard the rifle when the other 2 went swimming. It was during that time when they went swimming, I was approached again, and this well-spoken chap had said that you had been contacted in North Wales. I was approached in North Wales.
How did that group get into being, and is it still existing today?
No, it doesn't exist. Well, I can't say that for certain. but I'm sure it doesn't exist today because they were even older than me, and I'm 72. So, but I have had a telephone call in the last 3 weeks off one of the 16, and that was one of the reasons why I wrote the book, One Step Beyond the 16. For that very reason, I need to get in contact with these people and find out exactly what's going on in the world. He asked me if I was still interested, and I said yes, I was. And then he says, okay, well, we'll contact you. I said, well, how? He says, oh, don't worry about it, we will. So after that, the two lads that was with me who was swimming, when they came up, they said, who were you talking to? I said, really, I have no idea. I said, he's just well spoken. I think he was an officer of some, you know. And at the time, I used to stammer. A week after that, when I was on parade, you normally go on parade and then they send you to various different jobs and what have you. They put me in the officers' mess as a waiter. So during this time, when I was being trained as a waiter, I had to stand at the head of the table and read the menu. And anyway, there was one officer in particular, when the rest were sort of sniggering about me stammering, he had stamped his hand on the table and he said, no. He says, Geordie, sing it. I said, what? He says, sing it. So I didn't actually sing it, but I sort of rhymed it, if you like, and the stammer started to disappear. But for some reason, this officer seemed to make a real effort in protecting us in some way, you know.
And what do you want to actually do? You want to get back in contact with the 16 and any successors of that 16?
Yeah, I think, like you say, I need to get in contact with these people because I think they really know what's going on if they're around, you see. But like I said, it's intelligence again I'm looking for, and this is why I'm doing this. We need to get information because we think something really terrible is going to happen very, very soon. And then one day, the sergeant pulled us over and said, right, you're finished here. And I said, look, I was just starting to get the hang of this. I'm just getting rid of this damn stammer, you know, and it's a cushy number. You were getting free meals, you know, extra good meals. And he said, no, I'm sorry, you've got to go back. I said, why? But he wouldn't give us any reason. I said, well, was this something, you know, I was thinking back to the guy who spoke to us on the beach when he said, what, did I want to do something different? And I thought, well, is this, was that it, you know? Was this something different, you know? Is this what he was talking about?
What kind of information and what do you mean by terrible?
We need information from the inside, if you like, because that's the only way we're going to find out what these people are up to and what their plans are. And we've seen what they can do now with the towers, with the London bombings. We've seen how evil these people are and what they're prepared, what extremes to go to get what they want at the end of the day. They said to me, right, why don't you go next door, pick a truck up, it was to the Remy, pick a truck up and we'll give you orders from then on. So I went next door, picked the truck up. I was sitting in the truck waiting for this driver coming. When I was approached by a sergeant, he says, what are you waiting for? I said, I'm waiting for the driver. He says, you are the driver. I said, but shouldn't I have other people with us? There should be a guy here with a gun as well. He says, oh, you've got the gun. He says, what more do you want? Get moving. You got your orders. Here's your orders. I says, but we're not supposed to go out with one, you know. There's terrorists everywhere. He said, look, that's the orders. Once you leave this camp, we couldn't give a shit where you go. You know what I'm saying? I said, there's something, you know, there's got to be something wrong here.
So let's make ourselves very clear here. You're a former member of a secret group within the British Army who was dedicated to fighting the Illuminati. That's right. And you are saying that the Twin Towers, the 7/7 incidents, the in London bombings are definitely inside jobs by the Illuminati. No doubt about that. I've got no hesitation in saying that. There's only one road from Episcopi to Limassol. On that road, out of the blue, I saw this guy standing on the side of the road with short pants and what have you. And he
he started to wave us down. Now, how he knew it was me, I've no idea, because he couldn't recognize us from that distance. So I thought it was a terrorist, you see, so I drove straight past him. But as I was driving past him, I sort of recognized him. It was the guy on the beach. So anyway, I drove past, and you know, there was dust everywhere. When the dust cleared, I could see him waving his back, so I reversed back. And then he says, right, he says, you remember me? Yeah. He says, right, come with me. And he had this Jeep. I said, what about the truck? He said, just leave it. I said, I can't do that, man. Can't leave a Jeep in the open like this. I said, you know, there's terrorists everywhere. He said, look, just do as I say, it'll be okay. Definitely be all right. I said, well, where am I going? He said, well, you don't ask questions like that. I said, okay. So I jumped in the Jeep, and I was getting a bit worried. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I recognised the guy. He has to be an English officer. He has to be. And that was the only reason why I went with him. Don't forget, I'm not really a qualified soldier at this stage. I just done a few weeks basic training, right? So I jumps in this Jeep with him, and we're heading towards the Trudis Mountains, at the base of the Trudis Mountains. Must have travelled about 3-4 miles maybe. Then we arrive at this, what looked like a hangar, like an old airplane hangar. So we'll pull up outside this old rotten old hangar, and around the hangar is a concrete base which was starting to fall to bits, and there was lizards jumping all over the bloody place. There was equipment, lockers inside, and there was 3 other guys in there. These 3 guys approached us, and they looked like bloody Greeks. You know, they were well tanned, until they opened their mouth. You know, I didn't know what to do, and then I heard the door locked behind us, and I turned around. I wasn't sure whether to run or not. I wasn't, you know, I was really shaken up by this. Like I say, this could have been a trap. This could have been Greeks, like I said. But until they opened their mouths, and I thought, you know, it just cannot be. I was introduced to them. I was asked certain questions. Was I prepared to do something totally exciting and different? And I said, yeah, I was. They wanted me to, I had to go through a program called a fear elimination program. And at that time, I still had no idea why I was there. I had to sit down, and they give us a cup of tea, and they say, look, are you still prepared to go? And I was keep on saying, why me? You know, why the hell did you pick me? What qualifications have I got? After I came out the one step beyond, they said the qualifications was that I didn't drink, didn't smoke, I was a keep fit fanatic, you know, I'd done gymnastics, and that was one of the reasons why they chose me. So, you know.
What does the one step beyond involve? What
the one step beyond involves taking you through a near-death experience. So how they actually did that, I've really no idea.
So can you go as far as that they made you very tired?
We're sat in, like I said, I sat in this little office, which was falling to bits, at this table with the guy who I met on the beach, who I found out his name was Ken. And there was something, like say, rather strange about this guy.
What was strange about him?
Well, he was his eyes. He seemed to have big blue eyes.
What kind of eyes? Can you remember? What was strange about the blue eyes?
Well, they seem to be a little bit bigger than what I've normally see, you know.
And I mean, when you're talking about a normal eye, what's different? The iris or the eyeball?
The whole shape of the eye was rather. Yeah, how can I? It was like I don't know, 1/4 inch bigger than normal. They had like oval eyes, like something like not quite like Chinese, but sort of a teardrop type eye, you know.
Right.
But I mean, they were just like sort of
what colour of
slightly
hair did
bigger
he
than
have?
me, blue. They were bright blue eyes, and
any other facial details?
no, just very smooth skin.
What white skin, tan skin?
Well, no, he had tan on his skin to make him look brown. So he wasn't brown. He had blonde hair, which had been dyed, which I found out this later.
Dyed blonde?
No, he was blonde, but he dyed his hair dark.
And what about his hands or his arms or legs?
Well,
was he hairless? Did he have shorts on? Or?
Well, like I said, no, he didn't have any. His hands were more or less like mine in a way. He had longer fingers. They were long and slim, sort of something you see like a piano player, you know. But yeah,
bit like my beautiful hands, no?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. You know, as I was trying to explain how Ken was so different from the rest was, he seemed as though he had to put on emotions. It didn't seem to come natural with this guy.
In what way? How did he move? What about his legs?
I mean, he walked like anyone else, really, apart from that. He was more sure of himself in every way. But he seemed to, how can I put it? He seemed to have to switch on and switch off to join in with the rest of us. In other words, when he came along, he didn't take part. He seemed to have to stop and think and then switch on to take part in what we did.
What about his hands? Any other details about his hands?
Well, he's just had long fingers, like a piano player. They were perfect in the sense that, you know, he wasn't overweight. He was just the right build and everything was in proportion to what it should be.
What was your intuition telling you about him?
Well, again, I keep mentioning I was only 18, 19 when I was with these people, and especially with Ken. And Ken just was different, and it was so hard to describe. He wasn't like the others. He was more positive. He came over. He had a presence about him, you know.
What was the thing which made him different?
Well, like I say, it was his mannerisms, the way he talked, the way he moved. He was a bit like a bit of a robot in a way, because when he turned, he didn't turn quickly. He used to turn slowly and then look at you and then move.
How did he look? What did the eyes do?
Well, it just do what our eyes did, apart from being big and blue. He used to seem to stare right through you, you know. But and his movements were so precise. Do you understand? He never made a mistake, this guy. Really, that's all I can say about him. It was so hard to describe. He didn't make mistakes.
Right, so was he actually a British officer? Remember, he didn't have...
Well, I never saw him with any insignias to say that he was a British officer. It was the way he spoke, his natural way of speaking. He sounded like a British officer.
Now, for instance, in the book you describe how you were trained for 4 days, but you only remember one of them.
1 day.
So something happened so that you could be trained in what you became, what you then switched into, called the machine. Yeah. Can you describe anything about that?
Okay. On the first day of meeting these people, they took us into an office where they questioned me for the full day until about 8 o'clock at night. When after that, I couldn't actually remember exactly what happened. All I could remember was when I was being questioned, what they did was actually tell me all about life, when I was born, what was going to happen. I was going to grow old, this could happen to you and you're going to die. And they said, well, you know, what's life all about, Jody? What's the point? If there's a heaven, why don't we just miss all this out and go straight there? So they were convincing. And this was called a One Step Beyond. And it was a fear elimination program. But it said they spent all day convincing me that life was a total waste of space. And by the end of that day, they had convinced me that. By showing us photographs of poor people, what happens to them, and you know, and where they end up at the end of the day is stuck in some little cottage somewhere, you know. So that really got at me that day. And then at the end, when they convinced me that life wasn't worth living, they actually handed me a revolver. I picked the revolver up, to shoot myself, and it was very, very difficult. It was so heavy, the gun, I was so tired. When I picked the gun up to shoot myself, they took it away from us and said, "You fool, what the hell do you think you're doing? Your mum didn't bring you into this world for nothing. Let's explain." And that's when, after that, I can't remember anything. But the thing was, he said, "Okay, look, just relax, have a cup of tea, and just listen to what I have to say."
What does his voice sound like?
Well, it was Queen's English.
What was the tone or the nature of his voice?
Soft, sort of long drawn, if you like. You know, it's like as how can I put it down?
Would you talk like David Niven or something like that? You know, posh English like that.
Yeah, posh English accent he had, yeah. Very precise. Sometimes he repeated himself, and I have no idea why, because I understood every word he said. And then he brought out a coin, a silver coin, and he spun it on the table, and he kept looking at it. But the way he spun the coin was different to what I've ever seen. Normally,
exactly how?
Well, you know, normally if you want to spin a coin, you use your two hands to spin it. You can spin it with one, but it's very difficult. But he seemed to be able to spin it so fast with just two fingers, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, he used to spin it, and he used to sort of place his finger on the top as well. So he was controlling it. And he was just talking to us. And then it started off about, why do you think we're here? You know, and I said, why? You mean...
What did it mean by, why do you think we're here?
Well, this is the point I was trying to get at. He was talking about why we're here on Earth, and, you know, he started to sort of pull life to bits, if you understand. He said, look, when you're born, you start to work, you know, you get up in the morning, you go to work, you do this, you do that, and then you're definitely going to die. And during this period of time, you could be ill, you know, you could lose limbs, you know, you could be suffering from serious diseases. But at the end of the day, you're definitely going to die. And this used to go on. And he was showing us pictures of people in wheelchairs and old people dying. And
how was he showing you the pictures? Were they from a book or something?
No, they were just, you got a sort of a folder out, and there were large black and white photos. And he kept putting them in front of us. And I kept on saying, well, you know, what's this about? Why are you showing us this? Of course, this went on for quite some time, to the point where I was getting very, very tired, very worn out, to the point where his voice became sort of mumbled. You know, I could barely understand him. And then after that is where things really started to change. It's when I appeared to be, at one point, I was so tired and closed my eyes, and my arms felt very, very heavy. And then when that started to take place, he handed me a revolver. He slid it across the table in front of us. And he said, look, you know that life is really just a waste of space. There is no real reason for it, is there? Think about it. You know, you're definitely going to die, aren't you? And I said, yeah. So well, what's the point of doing all of this? You know, what's the point of it? It has no meaning. And then, after a while, like I said, I was so tired and getting this drummed into my head about, you know, you're definitely going to die, but how you're going to die, it could be, you know, you could go through a lot of pain. Why not just end it now? And he pushed a revolver in front of us, a service revolver. And he convinced me then, it was a waste of time. And I tried to pick up the revolver, and I struggled to pick it up. It was so heavy because I was so tired. I got it to my head, and I was about to pull the trigger. And I mean, I actually got it to my head, and I was trying to pull the trigger, but I couldn't. Then he just slowly reached out and grabbed it and put it on the table. And he says, "What the hell are you doing, Geordie?" I said, "Whoa, just wait a minute. You just spent a lot of time convincing me that life was a waste of space here." And I was keep sort of partly dozing off when I was saying it. And he says, "Look here," he says, "you're here for a reason. And that reason is," he says, "you're here to experience life. That's why you're here. Because no other time are you going to be able to feel, touch, have all these emotions. You're not going to have that once you're dead. Once you're dead, you're dead. You're just energy. And this is, your mother didn't bring you into this world for nothing, you see." And he kept on harping on like that. And then all of a sudden, everything became mumble. I couldn't understand what he was saying. And then all of a sudden, I felt myself looking down at the table where I was sitting. I could see myself sitting there at the table with Ken on the other side. And I could hear nothing at this stage. And then, trying to explain it, people seemed to be coming in the room, but I didn't see them coming into the room. Do you understand? They were just suddenly there, and then they weren't there, and then they were there. And Ken was either sitting in the chair, and then he wasn't sitting in the chair.
What about people? Who do you mean by people?
Well, that was the three guys that were there. It was,
And were they? Did they have the same eyes?
No, they're just normal, if that's the word to use. No, they were just like me.
Why do you say normal if that's the word to use?
Well, there was nothing outstanding about them, apart from being very, very fit.
And they didn't have to wear. They didn't have to wear false color.
No. They just.
But the officer did.
Yeah. But this officer did. Yeah, and I'm taking him to be an officer. I had no proof he was an officer.
So he didn't. And none of these
guys didn't have a uniform. In fact, none of us had uniforms. I was the only one who was standing in denims, working outfit.
So for all you know, they were civilian.
No, there could have been anything. This is why I was so concerned at the time. And again, don't forget, I was only 18. I hadn't seen a television set. And I mean that, I hadn't seen a television set. I was hardly ever at school. I didn't know where Cyprus was. I had no idea. And this is what made it even more confusing, because I couldn't understand why they picked me, apart from what they said about me being fit, didn't smoke, didn't drink, and all that sort of thing. So, I was still really naive. But again, while I was looking down, I seemed to be looking down at them. And then the voice started.
What do you mean you were looking down at them?
Well, I was looking, feel as though I was looking down from the ceiling. I could see myself in the chair, and I could see Ken on the other side.
So you were now out of body?
Yeah, well, that's what I felt like, yeah. I was out of body, if that's the way to try and explain.
So you could see yourself sitting on the chair?
I could see myself sitting in the chair, and I could see Ken sitting directly opposite me, but he was still looking at me. Then the movement of his lips, then suddenly I could hear him again. And he was saying, "Concentrate on the room. Concentrate on the room." So I could hear this echo telling us to do that. When I started to concentrate on the room, what I saw was what looked like, how can I describe it? Snowflakes or raindrops, thousands of them, but the one coming down, they were traveling around the room, going right through the walls, going through. When they were getting near Ken, and they were like, how can I put it, like a strange dark blue with a tail of light behind them. When they got near them, they were bouncing off him, and they were going through the walls. and there was all different shades.
Were they like tears? Or
Yeah, well, like I said, it's hard to describe.
Tadpoles.
Because there were different, there were different shapes, different sizes. I had no idea what they were until I came out of this. But he was keep talking to us all the time. He says, he kept on explaining what was happening and what I was looking at. You see? He says, what you're looking at is energies, souls. And each one of these is energy, come a soul, come a frequency. He says what you're looking at is energy looking for a vessel. He says that's what they're looking for. But he says each one is different. And he was telling me to concentrate on what was actually taking place in the room. He says, you'll see is 1 minute you'll see is 1 minute you don't. But he was still looking at me sitting in the chair, but I was looking down on them. You see? And these energies, like I said, they were passing through the table, and they were all different shapes and different sizes. And apparently, and this is not a racist remark, by the way, each one of these are for the different races. You know, like browns, blacks, green, you know, Chinese or whatever, or Asians, I should say. And he says a lot of them are also animals, animal life, animal frequencies. So there's, and there was literally millions of these things, you see. Each one of them apparently is looking for a vessel.
a physical body.
A body, yeah. That's what but they're called vessels until like I said, when a woman's pregnant and the body is developed to the point where the pineal gland is fully developed, is when prior to that, the energy, when the baby starts to kick, that's the other energy, which is electricity, if you like. We've got, 200 odd volts of electricity. That enters the body first, and then the baby starts to kick a little bit and move about. And then when the pineal gland is developed, is when the energy comes in. And that's when the baby really starts to kick. So I'll not go into that too much because I want to make a complete film on that. But that's how that's how you start. The energy comes in. And when you do come in, you come in into the vessel that your energy, your frequency, your soul has no memory. So when you enter the body, you could say you're starting your life with a blank tape. So the second you're born, whatever you see, whatever you record, is what you know. You don't know any more than that. So I'll not go into that too much because I want to make a full-length film about it. How you can have multi-personalities, how you can have sort of a female in a male's body, and vice versa. Anyway, as I said, we'll go into that some other time, and you'll find.
So you learnt this.
I learned this off. I learned it off again. During this time when this was happening, it was keep blanking out. 1 minute I could see, the next minute I couldn't, to the point where it became, these blank spots were coming fairly rapidly, and then suddenly I was being woken up saying, "Come back, Jody, come back, come back, come on, wake up, have a cup of tea." And that was it. When that happened, I was under the impression that I'd been there for about 17 hours or something. So I've been there, nearly all night.
Yeah.
Nearly all day and all night. So when I woke up, I found they were just offering me tea. When I woke up, they said, have a look at your body. So I was having a look at my body, and I had scratch marks on my hands and a couple on the side of my face. It's hard to remember because, like I said, it's over 53 years ago now.
But you'd been fighting.
Well,
or something physical.
When I was sitting there, I said, right, okay, well, what was all that about? I said, when are we going to start? Because when I first came into that hangar, I saw these guys doing some form of combat, and it looked very impressive. I never seen anything like it. Of course, then again, I hadn't seen television. I didn't know what was going on in the world. I just knew what I was looking at. I wanted to learn, but how unique it was, I had no idea at the time. And so when I was actually come to and sort of woke up, and I was having this tea, I said, when are we going to start training? I said, what is it you're doing? He says, oh, that's called, the combat is actually called the machine. For 4 days after that, I couldn't remember a thing. All I was taught was after the 4 days that they implanted these skills into my subconscious brain. And they said I had to switch off the conscious brain because it takes in too much rubbish, and I had to switch it off and get to the subconscious brain to plant all these skills.
What's the machine? Can you describe that? And this is really what your trade is, really.
Yeah, well, the machine is a basic set of moves that the body does. And like you say, I don't want to go into that too much. I don't want to explain it too much in detail. But it's a set of moves that once the body's learned it, it covers every aspect of combat. In other words, you can disarm
And this
person,
is not
no matter
martial
what
arts.
he's got.
This is not a martial arts thing.
No, it's not a martial arts.
So if people are visualizing martial arts,
it's not martial arts.
It's completely different. This is important.
It's completely, yeah. And like I say, and to prove that, we had, we'll not mention names again here neither, but we've got documented proof. SAS officers has been up trying to form a contract to acquire these skills, and I won't let them have them. They've seen it. I've been down to their
why
camp.
not letting God and country have your skills, John?
Well, because the way they are at the moment, they work for the elite. Whether they're aware of that, I wouldn't like to say it, but their skills are fully available anywhere. They're on YouTube. They even train, like I say, they go abroad training people. So what's the point of that? Because you need the element of surprise when you take the enemy on. So, you know, if you don't keep these skills, you're going to lose that element of surprise. And this is exactly what the SAS do. That if you go onto YouTube now, all these top secret skills they've got are fully available, and that's what I don't like about it.
So that's what they did with you.
And that's what they did with me.
And that, what you went through in those 4 days, is the one step beyond. Is that what you're saying?
That's the one. Yeah, the one step beyond is seeing what life is. So what happens when you die? When you die, is just blank. There's nothing. You just end up as energy, just like a frequency, like what's in the air now. Just, you know, and all of these energies are floating around right now. They're all looking for a vessel. Look at life on Earth. You've got to ask the question, why are we here? And if you think about what Ken said, look, you get up in the morning, you go to work, and you do all this, you have kids. What for? At the end of the day, you die. So what's the point of that? There has to be a reason for that. The reason is for that. You're experiencing life. It's the only time you can feel, touch, love, hate, whatever. That's the only time you can do it. Because once you're dead, you can't do it. Now, if it's a heaven, why don't we just cut all this out and go straight to heaven? What would be the point of doing this bit? So if there is a heaven, right, this is what they were telling me, if there's a heaven, what are they all doing up there, these trillions of people? So there's trillions of people in heaven, what are they doing? Are you trying to tell me they're doing swear, they're doing fight, they're doing do this, you know, what the hell are they doing? That's what they said. You know, it must be bloody boring up there. They said, no, it's not like that at all. What it is, you're just a frequency floating around. He says, now how the frequencies got there, we're not going to tell you that. We know how they got there. We know how each of the species on this planet is here and how they came here. And he mentioned something about the third world. Why do you think they call them the third world? Because it's 3 different worlds. You know, the Chinese, the Indians.
So are you saying that the core root races or whatever of humanity are actually different?
From different places.
Different
yeah.
not dimensions or
just from different places. We're brought here. You see,
as such, we are extraterrestrials, so to speak, on our own planet. Or
well,
on this
apparently,
planet.
you know, apparently, like what they were saying is, this is the bit I get a bit dodgy about. I don't really like talking about it because I haven't got that much information on them about other aliens or whatever. I only know that the aliens apparently were just like us at one point, but they got so far advanced on their world, which was like our world, and they got so far advanced and they destroyed it. They destroyed their own world apparently. It, you know, or was destroyed in some way.
So who told you this?
Ken said to know all about it.
During when you were one step beyond?
Yeah. No, this was afterwards he was explaining it.
So what else did he say?
Well, he was saying, because I was asking him about all this, what was it? Because after a while I started remembering it, what I was going through. I said, well, what was these blank spaces? You know, why at some point I couldn't see, you know, what was taking place? Like somebody was switching us off and switching us back on. He says, you were dying. He said, well, we had to get you back before. That's why they call it the one step beyond. If you went too far, you didn't get back. We would have lost you. And I got the impression that I'd done that before. And people didn't have, they found that if you want some kind of, it's not the word drug, but if you were relying on something like, you know, say you were hooked on beer, smoking or whatever, that would have some effect on this one step beyond. They couldn't control it apparently. Now don't ask us how, because I have no idea. I just know that the brain is slightly damaged in some way. You know, I don't know exactly what they meant by that, but they just say, look, you have to be pure in the sense that the body hadn't got to be affected in some way. And this is why you were picked. He says, how many men in the British Army do you know that doesn't drink or smoke? And also is a fit fanatic. You see, so, you know, and you ask why we picked you. So did we have much choice? We didn't have that much of a choice, you know. So anyway, that's what took place there.
What about the pineal gland?
What about
you
it?
mentioned the pineal? That's one of the
Yeah, well, the pineal gland is a transmitter cum receiver, and when the pineal gland is fully developed, it sets off a signal, which your energy. Well, I'm saying your energy, the energy that it attracts the energy to that pineal gland. And that's when it enters through the pineal gland into the body. And that's when the body comes to life, you see. But if it's a male, it'll be a male energy that enters, because it's just like a code system, just like a barcode, if you like. And if that is damaged in some way, I'm getting into the other story now, you see. If it's damaged in some way, you'll not get a male body entering. You'll get a female body entering a male body. And that's why you get a guy who there's a woman inside of a man's body.
Right, and this is what Ken explained.
This is what Ken explained, but it goes deeper and deeper, into those areas, and it covers everything. And then when you've heard the full story about it, then you say that makes sense. You see, it's a bit like this heaven business. If there's a heaven, why the hell are we doing this bit? What's the point of all this pain and suffering? No, this is what makes it so important, because this is the only time you're ever going to be able to feel, touch, and do something. You understand? When you're in the vessel, you can do things. Prior to that, you can't do anything. You're just floating about, looking for another vessel. That's basically what it's all about. Of course, your church is not don't want you to know that for obvious reasons. Once the conscious brain understood that the subconscious brain had the skills, the conscious brain was getting sort of surprised. So the surprise had to, but by the more practice I did, the more the conscious brain start to recognise or take it on board, if you like, what skills it really had. The conscious brain has to get used to the idea, so it was relatively easy.
So it makes you able to consciously switch on the
That's
unconscious
right.
skills.
Yeah. So these
which
things
you need to do in battle when you need to.
Yeah. You see, if the conscious brain has to study the moves, it gets confused. Therefore, it doesn't take the information in straight away. That's why they've got to switch off this conscious brain. You see, so it's easy to just download it straight onto your subconscious brain, you see. And then they introduce the conscious brain to it, and it gets used to it pretty quickly. Yeah. So once I learned that, then I had to put it into practice. I had to find out if I really knew it. So the first mission was in Trudis Mountains, where we killed some of these Greeks who had hidden ammo in some cave somewhere. But after that, anyway, the main mission, which I didn't realise, I had done one operation in Cairo, which we got proof that it took place. The Egyptians invited us over there. They give us a medal. I got a medal off them, and I got a scroll with their major saying, and this is from their special forces, saying I was the best counter-terrorist in the world as far as they were concerned. That operation we went into Cairo. So we went from Cyprus by helicopter to near Tyre, refueled, because don't forget the helicopters them days couldn't travel any real great distances, and this was what we used to, what was nicknamed then hackneys. They were they were used for as like an ambulance service, if you like, we were dropped off near 15 miles southwest of Port Said, near the Nile. So we had to get from the Nile, 4 of us, we had to get from the Nile down to Cairo. So the object of the exercise is, in Cairo there was a building surrounded by two barbed wire fences, which had guard patrols. It was well guarded, put it that way, and it was mainly Russians that were there. And we were told to get into this office and require documents, and that's what I was told, that we were just there for certain documents, and we had to get rid of this guy who was a scientist, and that's what I was told at the time. So we did get in, and it's a long story, but it's in the book, in my book, the 16. It explains in detail how we got in that building.
If people want to get details of the missions, they can read the book.
Yeah. Okay.
But in a nutshell.
Well, in a nutshell, what we had to do was we had to get into this compound. The compound was surrounded by 2 barbed wire fences, which was approximately 12 feet, 14 feet high, with a guard patrol, a dog patrol in between the barbed wire fences. So we had to get from this whole building, this building that had been struck by bombs or whatever. Don't forget, just a year prior to that, it was going there, the Israelis had attacked Cairo. yeah, you know.
We're
there'd
talking
been a war.
1957 now?
1958, 57. Well, it was 58 when I was out there. So
The mission-
it was a year prior to that, 57, when they attacked Cairo, somewhere about that time. So when we went there was still a lot of buildings that were damaged and roads damaged, you see. But anyway, again, we had to get from one building across the 2-by-wire fences, and this is where the skills come in. These are the skills that our special forces haven't got. And I'm not describe exactly how we did it, but some of the descriptions is in the book, you know, and how we did it. Anyway, we got into the building. We caused a distraction on the outside of the building to make sure that the 2 guards that were guarding this guy dashed down into the courtyard because we had set fire to a generator. At least I think it was a generator. And when they did that, we got into this office. We killed a guy with his own gun. We made it look like suicide. And this is what we did. We shot the guy. There was only one big door in the room. There was no way out of that room. And what we did was shot the guy. We saw the keys on his desk. We locked the door, put the bolts in, put the chair underneath the door, put the keys in his pocket, but we weren't in the room when we did it. Nothing magic. We were outside in the corridor when we did this. That is explained in the book, how that's done. And this SAS officer, who really thought that was a real fairy tale, when he came into my club, I did it in my office and showed him how it was done. And he was, you know, completely gobsmacked. He was shocked. And, you know, they wanted to know why.
And then eventually you went back. The Egyptians invited you back.
The Egyptians invited us back.
And when was that? And
the reason why they invited us back...
You've got these wonderful photographs to show us.
Yeah. The reason why they'd read my book, and one of the reasons why they invited us back, because I was the only guy who knew, which is in my book, a place called Jaraba. I was the only guy who mentioned it, because it's been taken off the maps. But I have a map upstairs now with it on. And they were very, very impressed, and that's why they invited us over there. We had killed quite a few of their people. They were really annoyed about that, and I thought at some point they weren't going to let us go, you know. But they did. You know, everything was okay. They give us a medal. Like I said, they give us a scroll, which I've got in the staircase there. And we're their major of the 3 Sevens, which is their special forces. So anyway, we did that.
The important thing is, as we close in this part, that is verifying your story, and this is the important thing, that you are able to provide this verification that this isn't all a fairy tale.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I went out to Egypt, and I was taking a big risk going there, because we had killed people in their country. They had found apparently bodies with fingers missing, which I described in the book how we did that when we were confronted by the military. We had to disarm them. So, but all of this, like I said, is in the book. But this is why they invited us over there, and they knew about Jaraba, and they were very excited about that. And then, like I said,
we're closing on this part, and we'll have a little bit of a rest, and we can talk about Jaraba then.
Yeah, we'll talk about Jaraba.
Okay. And the other important things that you've got to say about what's going on in 2012 and the war.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thinking in the first degree. There's only one way to stop the New World Order. Stop playing their game. Firstly, you must face the truth of what reality actually is, and not just what you want it to be. If it doesn't sit comfortable with what you believe, then you'll deny the facts. The fact is, you're playing a game, and yet you don't know it. Let me try and explain what the game is that you are playing. It was put there by the elite, by the Illuminati. It's called the law of the land, common law, statute law. This game is like Monopoly. You are in their gambling house. You cannot beat them. The games are rigged. Occasionally, they let you win something to give you hope and keep you in the game, because now they own you. They are playing with your mind. You can't beat them at their game because they don't take part in it. How many times have you been told that the elite are on the run? Look around you. More and more countries are going bankrupt every month. They attack every country that doesn't toe the line and destroy it. While you are playing games set down by them that you cannot possibly beat them in a game where you are the only one who's playing by the rules. The rules do not apply to them because they make them. We have to stop kidding ourselves. While you are wrapped up playing their games, they are taking over the world. And do you really believe that people are waking up? How many times have you been told that? How many years ago was it? You see, the people you are dealing with are evil and very astute. You know them as the elite, the New World Order. They even tell you how many of you they are planning to get rid of by the Georgia Guidestones, the FEMA coffins, the concentration camps. They want you to know because it's fear that controls you. They will come at you from every angle in disguise. They need to distract you. They have organizations who pretend to be against them. These groups are popping up everywhere. They are there to distract you, confuse you, to make you believe that people are waking up, even if that was possible. And I'm afraid this will come too late. You see, if you throw the truth into a barrel of lies and deception, the chances are you will never find it. Forget ethics. Think of survival. We are heading for destruction, orchestrated by the elite. I feel it's my duty as a human being to help by explaining what I went through and what they are really up to. It's something you must know. Why you are here, what it all means, and why the elite are trying to destroy you. It's not just a question of depopulation. They have other agenda that you are totally unaware of. I am sure you must know who the elite are by now. Most of the elite are very old and won't enjoy the final result of their New World Order, or will they? The more humanity strays away from its origins, then the more we deny our bond with nature. Humans have this built-in set of rules for survival at almost any cost. As long as humans experience emotions such as love, hatred, jealousy, greed, ambition, lust, and the urge to control, there'll always be killings and wars. This is how we are built, whether we like it or not. The elite control us through these emotions, so most of us can be bought and sold. So in their eyes it will be called survival. It's probably your next door neighbor and your so-called friends who are your real enemy, because it's them, their sons, their daughters, their cousins who are working for the elite, either in the police or in the armed forces. This is what they are doing while you are playing their game. They will bury you alive, you fools. It's too late. You cannot stop them. For over 70 years, they have infiltrated and taken over control of every level of Western governments, from the intelligence services, military, police, local government, and schools. Thank you for listening. If you want to contact me, you can get me on ucsdefense.com.